So, okay, hello. This is the opening screen of DSE or DSE Lite, but this happens to be DSE Lite because it's easier to look at. When you're faced with this, you have a menu up there, different menus. The file has different file manipulations like the new file or open an existing file. Edit just lets you edit your stuff. View is to view different windows that are open. The command lets you do things like install configurations and other stuff. The window is just how you would arrange the windows, and help has a wealth of information here with manuals, application notes. This is where you would go to do your updates, to update your package. So just clicking on any one of these has application notes, books, and a lot of information here, and we come back to that. So what I'm going to do today is a real quick view of what our software looks like. So we are going to use a DC drive, and then after that we're going to do an 890. So first thing you do is File, and since you don't have an open configuration, you go to New. And I'm going to select a 590, and I'm going to go to version 8, which is the newest version, and click on the default. So this is what it looks like when it's open. So maximize it, and you can adjust your zoom like this, or you can click a number in here for zoom, or you could click and drag, and you can zoom in on whatever you want. So that's one of the ways to manipulate this. Now, what we're looking at here is the entire drive on the first page, and this is everything it takes for this drive to run out of the box. You will see analog and digital inputs here that are connected to the appropriate blocks that go to other blocks to make it run. So to give you an idea, your speed input comes in here with an analog input 3 goes into a mean speed and goes into the RAM. And then that is what sets up the block. Now, anything that you need to click inside a block, you double click on it. And if you wanted to adjust the accel or decel rates or anything like that, you do it out here, click OK, and it's done. So that is how you would make the change. This is a completely configurable drive like everything else you'll see in DSE Lite. So if you don't like a connection or you want to wire it to some other place, you click on it, it changes color, you delete it, it's gone. Now, if you would like to write to the accel, let's say you go to another block, you go real close to it till you get a cross X, and you click and drag to another input, and now you have rewired the inside of the drive. It is that simple. You don't have to compile, you don't have to do anything. After your changes are done, you just install it. So another thing is, there are other blocks in here that have things like diameter calculators, PIDs, the field control. So there are other drives, other blocks. Then there are these 10 logic function blocks and 10 value function blocks. And if you want to look at them, you can actually look at these things, and they're flexible blocks. So there is a type input, and if you want to see how many different types there are in this, do a right click and you will come up with a help sheet, and that will tell you what all these different functions are, and you can select any one of those and make your block do an AND or a flip-flop or a latch or whatever you want. So click on this, select whatever you want, click OK, and that will be a function block. So you can build your own circuit based on these blocks. All right? But if you wanted, I will be really quick, sorry. Okay, if you wanted to move a block, you can take a block, raise it all the way, go to another page using page down, and you can place it anywhere you want to get it out of the way. To make connections, if you wanted to say, use a PID trim and its output, you go from here, you make a connection, go up, go to another page, and you can connect it to another block, and it'll show you the interrupt that goes between those two blocks on both sides. So that's how you manipulate. The thing I wanted to stress here is this is a drive that has a fixed number of blocks, and it comes with these blocks, and you can manipulate them any way you want. It does not, however, allow you to add additional application blocks like you would in some of our other drives, and I will show, I'll show that to you next. So if you wanted to use this drive as a winder, I guess you cannot use this drive as a winder because you cannot put the SPW or CPW blocking, but there is another way. Let's X out of this. I don't want to save it. Let's go to File, New, and go to the same thing and go to Apps. Now, the apps means this is a winder. The SPW is speed winder, CPW is a current winder, SC is a section control. So if you wanted to use this as a winder, I click on it, and instead of giving you a function block for a winder, this now will be the drive which is configured as a winder, and you'd see the regular, you'd see the relevant inputs you need for a winder, for tension, line speed. And so that's how you can make this drive do special functions. Now let's exit all this, and we go to an 890 drive. So new and 890, like Bill said, our current version is 3. With the 3 can default. And if you do not know all that, there is a template help up here that opens up a sheet, and it'll tell you what to do. All right, so I'm going to gloss over this for now because we don't have much time, but let's go to the 890 version 3.3.10. Again, I can zoom in on this. So this is how it comes out of the box. This is a little different view out here, as in there is a motor control block which has the blocks that you saw in the previous drive to control the motor. And then you have blocks outside the motor control block that let you do your application. These blue graphics are just for guidance. They don't mean anything. It just means that if you wanted to bring a speed input, you come into this input and that's it. So most engineers click and delete these things. All right? That's just for guidance. This is what the actual configuration looks like. So you've got some analog inputs and digital inputs and analog outputs, digital outputs. But the main thing in here is the motor control. So if I double click on it, now it opens another tab. It's slightly different from the previous drive that you saw in the way it presents itself. So let's go look at these things. There are different types of blocks for reference, for feedback, for torque and current, speed loop. then the sequencing, trips, auxiliary functions. Then in this drive, you can do both types of motors, the induction motor and a P-bank motor. So there's blocks for either or, okay? You cannot configure both. If you configure both, you have to use one motor at a time. And then these blocks in green are actually position control blocks where you can do an offset, a move, and it also has the functionality to do virtual master and a follower or over firewire to do a shaft synchronization scheme. So let's go back to this. This is how it presents itself. So in this case now, if you look at the menu up here, you will see a block menu. This didn't exist in the previous drive. So now what this is let's say that I go to another page. Page 2. It's blank right now. But we now have the means to insert blocks that don't come with your drive but are in DSE. It's a library. So when you go to blocks, you have a choice of all these different categories. You can go to logic blocks where you have things like an on and off timer delay, a start logic, latches, one-shot oscillator, etc. So to give you an example, you can get a block like this, zoom in on it, and you've got a time on delay. And you can build your circuit from there. So the other way is block. You can do value, and that has everything to do with analog in signals, like an adder, the multiplier, lots of different things. But just to show you an adder, it'll look like this. So you have 3 inputs and you have an output. Okay, let's not do all this. Let's say that you wanted to do a winder now. In this case, you can go to block, you can go to winder, get an SPW, and right here. Now it's got a winder block that does everything you ever wanted in a winder, puts it on the second page, and then you can write the relevant signals to the input of this block. You don't have to use every one of these things. I mean, usually you use them only about 20% of the block, depending on whether you want dancer or things like that. But it then allows you to take the speed demand off of this block, go up to your drive and put it into your trim input and delete the existing connection. So now you've got a drive that can do a winder, write speeds back to your drive. The drive knows what it's doing, and along with speed, you can also write things like your drive proportional gain. You can start and stop the drive, whatever you wanted in a winder. It's much more advanced than what you saw previously, but this all comes with DSE Lite free. So the other thing that I did not mention is that you can annotate your stuff. You can insert text into a configuration anywhere you want. And you can write tips for your startup guy or anything like that that says P-gain, or sorry, this was speed input, speed reference to drive. Notes like this, and then you can move them and you can do whatever you want with it. That just gives you additional, insight when an engineer does a config and sends it out to a field. These are very good tips for a startup engineer. That's it for now as far as the configuration part goes. This is what you would do when you were sitting at your desk and configuring it, to design it. But What this tool also does is that when you load it to a drive and you open the file online, it actually animates these blocks. So for each one of these blocks, you can see what's going in, what's coming out. You have you have menus where you can get all the inputs and set all your inputs and set points, and you can view them in four different ways. You can view them right at the block with a right click. You can put them on a monitor list in text, and you can add as many you can add as many parameters as you want in that list. You can put that parameter and view it as a chart to see a trend. And in the 890 and AC30 PND versions, you can actually view it in an oscilloscope in real time. What that means is that even though this is a serial link between the drive and the computer, you can pre-trigger a scope on a certain condition, and then when that condition happens, the drive captures the different values you want, puts them in its memory, and then loads them out to this tool. So you get a snapshot of what happened when your trigger happens. So that is it. I think I will hand it over to Bill again so he can commence with the slides. I think my time is up.
And we have a few minutes left. I wanted to cover a couple other points that are useful to know about the DSE tools, and some which really comes down to things like cables and whatnot, right? So there's a lot of different ways to connect to our drives. Some of the older products, like the 590 Plus and 690 Plus, have an RJ45 connector for programming. It's referred to as the P3 port, and you can purchase a cable from us called CM351909, has RJ45 connectors on it and an adapter to a serial port. And if you get the for purchase DSE Lite version, it comes with that cable. If you download a free version, you have to get the cable separately. Most computers today do not have serial ports, and so we recommend adapters to USB ports, and that would be these three shown at the bottom. And in the same token, we do not recommend the Belkin and Keyspan Triplite types shown in blue here. We have had some issues using those. We don't sell these. You can get these online or the local office supply. Just no point in us being the middleman for something you can get anywhere. If you have an AC890 series product, the standard programming port is mini USB, and this mini USB cable part number can be ordered from us. You can get similar mini USB cables elsewhere too, but we do sell this one. Or if you've installed an option card for Ethernet on your 890, you can program it over Ethernet, and you just get a commercially available Cat5 or Cat6 Ethernet cable. Again, online or from your local office supply to do that programming over Ethernet if that's how you choose to do it. If you've got an AC30, Ethernet ports are standard. Again, any good quality Cat5 or Cat6 Ethernet cable from many sources other than Parker. If you've got LinkNet modules that go on 590 pluses and 690 pluses, the 6055 and 6053 LinkNet modules, there are two ways to program them. Again, one is any good quality Cat6 Ethernet cable available from many sources. And in that case, if you're on a network, you could be plugged into the switch that connects many drives together and program any of those drives from that point, or you could plug directly into the Ethernet port that's on that LinkNet module, but then obviously you wouldn't be connected to the network at the same time. Or you can use the same mini USB cable that goes with 890 programming and use this USB port. leaving the Ethernet connection intact. So there are two choices for LinkNet modules. And if you've got an AC10, we sell a cloning kit that provides a number of different ways to connect to a PC via the PC's USB port and an adapter and a cable to connect to the drive. And depending on which version, AC10 is why we have several different adapters that go with it. But that is a port number 1002-00-00 to program AC10s, both the IP66 and the IP20 versions, using DSE Lite